I made a very conscious decision to replace myself with AI. And I don't say that lightly. Not augment, not assist, replace myself. I set out to hand the machine everything I do and to build it to run without me on purpose. And the logic wasn't actually reckless, it was a bet. I reckoned that even if all it ever bought me was a longer runway, a bit more road to figure out the rest on, that alone was worth it. I could live with that as the worst case scenario, so I placed the bet. And here's the insight I didn't expect to happen, and it's the part I most want you to take with you. When you set out to replace yourself, your brain starts working at a different level entirely. I'm Finola Howard, your host and founder of How Great Marketing Works. I believe the only way to build a business worth having is to follow the joy that makes you brave enough to do it your way. But joy needs a system underneath it. And most businesses are running in pieces, every part working hard and none of them working together. This is where we connect them, your marketing, your business and you, into one whole you can finally see. So if you're a purpose-led entrepreneur, ready to build a success as you define it, this is your podcast, because great marketing is your truth shared. Last week I told you a story and it landed harder with you than I actually expected. A few of you reached out afterwards and asked me to go a bit deeper on it, to take you further in, because some of you are actually standing in your own version of this shift right now. So that's what today is. This isn't really a story about me. It's a story I'm handing you or offering you in case there's something in it you can borrow that helps you resolve it, that helps you navigate when the ground moves under you. Because, as we know, the ground moved under me this year. First, it was fast and definitely not gently. I've seen a lot of changes in my 30 years of doing this, and I've never felt anything move that fast. The speed of it is actually the whole reason this story is worth telling. Surprisingly, it was a political decision that sped the whole thing up. You know the one, the decision that had everyone move from chat to Claude, near enough overnight, actually within a 2-week period. And I remember those 2 weeks. It really woke people up to what AI could do because they started experimenting more with it. And when they started experimenting, when they could see what it could do, they just jumped in. And everywhere they looked, there was people waiting to help them. And that's what made it go faster. So everyone told me I pivoted this year. I actually didn't when I think about it now. And I'll tell you why. Because it's the first thing I actually want you to have. When you're developing a strategy for growing your business, it cannot come from a place of fear. I've watched this up close. I've watched it in myself and in good people sitting across a table from me. And fear only ever does the one thing. It makes you grab. It makes you reach for whatever will stop the feeling fastest. And the fastest thing is almost always never the right thing. So I don't build from fear. It's very conscious. I always build from a space that excites me, that makes me curious, and obviously that brings me joy. It's very deliberate. Now, that doesn't mean I wasn't scared. I really was. I just knew I couldn't find the answer there, and you won't either. I can say that because I've been here before. I've watched every wave roll in since this internet thing, then this social thing, and now this. And leaning in early has always paid off. This one was no different in that way. It was only different in how fast it came. That was the real difference, the speed. And while the room around me braced against it, holding the line, guarding against what you've got, I did the other thing. I leaned. Now, you should know I wasn't starting from nothing. I was already underway with AI and building really deeply. I'd already built the Joyful Dashboard, which is a connected view of your whole business. So your customers, your offers, your revenue, and your next move are all visible in one place. I'd built that in direct response to my own client base. I'd also built the annual planner because I knew it was an obstacle for people. Planning was something that people hated doing, even though they knew they should be doing it. So I'd already built these tools out and I was really excited by them. So I was already in it, already leaning into this space at my own pace, in my own time. So this shift in the pace of AI adoption didn't push me to get started. It just put its foot on the accelerator. That was the scary thing. It amplified the timing and it took a blade to the runway. The thing I'd have built out over a comfortable year, suddenly I had to build really fast. And at that point, I didn't know what that was. Building it fast forced me, as a result, to build differently. And building differently made me see it differently. It stopped being an add-on or an extra to my business, a nice extra, bolted on the side. It instead became a shift in the business itself, a different thing entirely. So I made a decision. And I want to say this really clearly because it's actually the whole hinge of this story and the thing that I want you to walk away with from this episode. I made a very conscious decision to replace myself with AI. And I don't say that lightly. Not augment, not assist, replace myself. I set out to hand the machine everything I do and to build it to run without me on purpose. And the logic wasn't actually reckless, it was a bet. I reckoned that even if all it ever bought me was a longer runway, a bit more road to figure out the rest on, that alone was worth it. I could live with that as the worst case scenario. So I placed the bet. And here's the insight I didn't expect to happen. And it's the part I most want you to take with you. When you set out to replace yourself, and the reason I decided to replace myself was because everybody was telling me that AI was replacing me. So I decided to go, okay, and accept that and actually lean into that. So when you set out to replace yourself, your brain starts working at a different level entirely. You stop defending what is and you open the whole world up to what if. And once you're living in what if, your imagination can run wild and becomes very exciting. And that's exactly what happened. Because handing everything over to AI, like not specifically, but handing everything over didn't empty me out. It actually cleared me out. It made space for me to stretch outside of my comfort zone again. Because the truth is, I probably reached a comfort zone anyway. I wasn't stretching the way I used to. And that space, it turned out, was the whole point. Though I couldn't have told you that going in. Because when I used to work with AI, work, not build, I'd hand it a piece of me and get back something smooth, something competent, and also something not quite right. The average. And I finally saw what I'd been doing wrong. I'd been having chats that only live in the moment. Gone the second I closed the window. What I should have been doing all along was building the architecture of how I work. Not chatting, building. And when I started to build out my own architecture, it forced me to see myself clearly. Who I am, who I was, and who I could be. Because the only work the machine can't take, the only thing it kept handing back, not quite right, was the work that was only ever mine. The thread. The way I see the whole of it at once. How I can look at a business and see the potential in it and immediately know how to reach it. How I can see an obstacle and still recognize the human in their own particular way. How a single reframe can shift an entire trajectory. It's the strategist and the coach inside me. So the crisis never actually threatened my work, it proved it. I've said that before. But trying to automate myself out of my own business is the thing that finally showed me where my genius had been hiding all along. By replacing me, I had found me. And because I was building differently now, building the architecture, not chatting, I could make things that weren't possible before. Not hard, impossible. Here's the easiest one for me to explain to you as an example. I built a brand voice diagnostic, a real one, a way of holding up the thing that makes you unmistakable, your own voice. That's your uniqueness and how you express yourself. and showing it back to you straight, with kindness, but straight, very clearly. And that couldn't have actually existed before, because before it would only ever have been my opinion of you, my read, one woman's view, and you'd have taken half it and quietly argued with the rest, because it was my view, not your view. But a diagnostic is not an opinion, it's a mirror. And you'll take a mirror in a way that you will never take an opinion. It lands, you can actually receive it, because there's no ego of mine standing in the doorway. But here's the part I'm proudest of, because we didn't stop at the diagnosis. Seeing yourself clearly is only the first move. Diagnosis first, always. You can't change what you can't yet see. And once you can see it, that's when the real work starts. We didn't just build the diagnosis, we built a recalibration for the business you want to become. Here's how it goes. It starts with your intention, the business you actually want to be. Then it runs a sense check over your existing voice, the way you sound now, and you provide it with the example of how you sound now. Then you decide the DNA that will stay, the DNA, the things that make it sound like you, the part of you that's a non-negotiable. And then the upgrade, the voice that'll carry you where you're going next. And then we turn the whole thing into a skill, so that every time your AI writes for you, it sounds like the business you want to become in your voice. Not the average, not everyone else, you, but the next version of you, without all the hedging and imposter syndrome that might have been holding you back. That's gone. And it becomes you, the best version of you, every single time. And that's your unmistakable brand voice. Something small and deep I could not have built before the fire. And you can find it at finolahoward.com, your unmistakable brand voice. But I've put a link in the show notes for you. So I repeat, none of this was a pivot. The year everyone pivoted, I didn't. I leaned further into the one thing only I can do. The fire didn't really make me someone new. It burned off everything that could be done by everyone else or anything else, and left the one thing standing that was only ever me. So here's what I want to leave you with. Go and find the thing that you think only you can do, or leave space for it as you reflect on this episode. And here's a way in for you, because sometimes it's hard to navigate. If you ever catch yourself saying, but I am the product, they only ever want me, stop right there and ask yourself the harder question. What if you're not? What if you could be replaced by AI tomorrow? What could you offer your target customer then? Because that answer, whatever it is where your genius is hiding. And that's the part that's only ever yours. Tune in next week and I'll show you the map around this space. It's a good one. And that's your truth shared for this week. If something landed, I'd love to hear it. Reach out and tell me where you are on this journey, because I read every message and I do reply to them. And if this episode was worth your time, the best thing you can do is rate it and review it in your favorite app. It's a small thing that does a really big thing for me. And I'll see you next week. Keep following the joy and keep doing it your way.